Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is Eisenherz and today I want to introduce you guys to a fairly new format which I'm really interested in. It's the love child of Pauper and competitive EDH called cPDH or competitive Pauper EDH, and because I'm not an expert in that, I invited a special guest today. Please welcome Clay. Okay, let's not waste any time and start with the first question. Clay, who are you and what do you do in the cPDH community?
Well, as a player, I've been playing Magic on and off for 25 years with a later focus in both Commander and Modern. I love my singleton formats, obviously. I'm a content creator for competitive Commander-related formats, so cEDH, cPDH, that sort of deal. And I'm currently a member of the cPDH Decklist Database Selection Committee. So we, like cEDH, we formulated a decklist database, not focused on tiers, but just trying to get some really good ideas out there to the community to help develop the community from the onset. And then on top of all that, I'm a member of the Pauper Commander Rules Committee, in addition to Discord servers and all of that stuff.
Okay, cool. So you're committing a lot of time into competitive EDH and now competitive Pauper EDH. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So cPDH is this new subformat, well, fairly new subformat. It's been around for quite some time now, but like it's gaining traction right now, gaining more popularity. So can you please introduce us to the format? What are the rules? How does it differ from competitive EDH or like Commander in general?
So it's essentially the same format, and intentionally so. So it's a 100 card singleton format where instead, here's one of the differences: the commander is any uncommon creature, and the 99 or 98, if you have partners, are cards with at least one common printing in either the online MTGO or paper formats, and then. The main two differences are the commander eligibility, which I pointed to earlier, the opportunity to play any uncommon creature, and the ban list. Right now, the ban list is only 2 cards. It's Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study. And I think the uncommon commander part is the part that makes this specifically unique, because it provides opportunities that you wouldn't normally have in regular EDH or cEDH.
So you don't have to use a legendary creature as your commander, it just has to be an uncommon, right?
Yep. Crackling Drake is an amazing example of that. Okay,
cool. So if I'm not mistaken, there's one other difference, or like two. The starting life total is different.
Oh, right? Yep.
And then how much is it exactly?
It's a 30 life and 16 for commander damage. Okay. And that's reduced obviously because the not necessarily the support spells like cantrips and removal and other forms of interaction. Those are at the same power level generally as what you would find in regular EDH, because we have brainstorm, ponder, yada yada, counterspell. It's because the threats are not as strong as regular commanders. You have to reduce the life totals to be able to compensate for that disparity.
Sure, that makes sense, because like otherwise the game would last 5 hours or nobody would be able to win, right?
Right.
Okay, that's a perfect point to ask my next question. So you have a singleton format. The commander is a uncommon. The creatures, or not the creatures, the rest of the deck are commons. You start with a lower total life, and you have how much commander damage? 16, is it?
16.
So how does that affect gameplay and of course brewing? Because like brewing is also an essential part of playing MTG. So how do these rules or specificities affect brewing and playing?
So the first thing I want to point out is, and it's probably for most people that come from cEDH over cPDH, they're thinking in terms of advantage engines. So cEDH itself is all about gaining advantage in the most efficient ways possible, and then trying to turn that advantage and piece together a win from like Adnaz, like getting a big hand from Adnaz and piecing together a win from that. Since we've banned Mystic and Ristic from the format, there's really no standalone advantage engines in PDH.
Mm-hmm.
So the skill level required to put together your synergies or your combos for any one deck, it's I would contend that it's a little bit higher of a skill level, because it's not really given to you. You have to actually actively go get it while holding up interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So another difference would be, instead of like 1 or 2 card combos in cEDH, you have 3 and 4 card combos, and that's fairly standard practice.
Mm-hmm.
If you like interactive gameplay, so this gets more into how it affects brewing. So if you like interactive gameplay, then cPDH is for you, and I'll tell you why. So everybody knows about the Playing with Power video filmed last summer. If you look at the end screen of that game, 140 spells were cast in that game. By comparison, if you look at their other gameplay for cEDH, the average cEDH game has 50 to 75 spells cast per game. So cPDH is highly interactive, and if you like that on the stack fight, right, which I know much cEDH much of that population does, then you're really missing out. Granted, you don't have Underworld Breach, you don't have Ad Nauseam, you don't have all of these one card like big bombs, but also that's kind of a crutch, right?
Yeah.
So if you really want to test yourself, but also that one difference getting to that interactive piece, considering brewing and deck building, you actually have a protection suite for cPDH decks, typically, whether that be just solely counter spells or things like green hexproof, what's the
Veils?
Yep, or cards similar to that. So yeah, you have these blacksmith skill, yada yada. You have a built-in protection suite that's a pseudo counterspell suite, meant to specifically protect your creature. So yeah, that's some differences.
So
otherwise,
so you don't have those big bombs, the Ad Nauseam, the Peer into the Abyss, the Underworld Breach, or the compact combos, which forces you to play a more interactive game, hold more interaction open, because you have to be aware that there's something coming from your opponents, and that gives it like a higher skill ceiling. Is that? Say that?
That's appropriate. That's very appropriate. Skill, yeah, higher ceiling of skill intensity. Yeah.
Okay. So if I enjoy those what's it called?
Interactive.
Interaction on the stack, I'd be interested in competitive Pauper EDH, you say?
Absolutely, because it's all about landing a threat and protecting it. And if you're not able to do that, then you're going to have a very hard time winning your game.
So it's maybe not for the Cody Turbo Nos players who win turn 2, doing basically nothing other than casting their commander and activating it. Yeah.
Just breathing that into existence and just have it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll cast my commander and activate it, and then yeah, that's a good game.
But also, like, well, to that Cody point, real quick. A lot of people that play cEDH get disenfranchised by how repetitive it gets.
Yeah, I've talked about that before.
And there is a population of cEDH players that loves that trying to get to that final point. Yeah, because you start out broad, and there's many different ways, and then as the game goes on, it narrows and narrows and narrows.
Yeah.
But you're ultimately finishing with a Thoracle or something of that nature. cPDH gives you a higher degree of variation between decks that can win.
That's like totally me. I don't like those incredibly straightforward, very linear decks. Like, I prefer to, I really like the struggle sometimes to get to a win,
Boy, do I have a format for you.
Yeah, that's also why I play Pauper. Like, I could play Legacy, but I don't, because I like how that Pauper is cheap, but it's also very like high powered and very interactive, and you have to be aware of everything your opponent does, and there is no such thing as a bomb that definitely wins you the game once you cast it. You have to get there.
Right.
And that's like really skill intensive. People really underestimate Pauper, and I can imagine that people also underestimate competitive Pauper EDH.
Yeah, this is going right into the next question.
So yeah, my next question would be, do you think that the top level Pauper EDH decks like Tatjova or Malcolm Kedis can compete in a regular EDH pod, like not in a competitive EDH pod? Like you should maybe not play a Pauper EDH deck in a competitive EDH pod, even if it's legal when you play Tatjova. But what would you say? At what kind of like power level are those most competitive cPDH decks?
So I've heard Tatjova taking down a high mid power level deck. Hear that all the time from Crash in the Homebase Discord. Mm-hmm. The problem, like, you can catch anybody off guard because we play cards that you don't normally see in EDH, which is in my, it's an advantage, right? Like, it's new stuff, yeah. Right? So you can sneak through a couple of wins, but once people start figuring out what you're doing, then there's a cap on how many wins you'll get. I've got a guy that picked up my Malcolm Dargo deck and has been winning at mid-high tier tables with that, sneaking in wins. But once again, once people figure out what you're doing,
well, that obviously makes sense because you're slower than other players. You don't have the free interaction, you don't have the bombs, but like you can definitely get some wins in a mid to high powered pot. And it's important to note that some decks can be legal in regular EDH as long as you use a commander that's also a legendary creature, like Malcolm, Kedis, Dargo, Tatjova, etc., etc. Yeah. So on that,
but you can also rule 0.
We don't do that in competitive, but like you could do that in a regular pot, of course. Sure.
Absolutely.
I don't think
we have people ask all the time. All the time. They're trying to introduce Pauper Commander, like regular Pauper Commander, to their play group. So they're asking specifically what these what legendary creatures are good for porting over into regular EDH. And after seeing that a few times, it's almost better to tell them, like, actually take these uncommon creatures, these uncommon commanders, non-legendaries, and rule 0 them in. What better way to show the power of PDH than to take just a non-legal regular EDH commander and show the power of it, like Crackling Drake, for example.
I don't think that in casual EDH in mid to high power people would have anything against that. Why would they?
Nope.
Okay, so this leads me to my final question for you, Clay. What are your top 3 favorite cPDH brews, and where can I get more content and infos about the format? I'll add all the links in the description box down below.
Righteous. So I intentionally picked decks that are not my own because everybody loves their own decks, right?
Yeah,
but there's
sure.
there's 3 that I've been interacting with for the last little bit that I'm highly impressed with, and I would like to see more of. The first one is Sphinx Summoner, which is a toolbox style banishing knack deck that was developed by a pilot named Quartz. The second one, Satyr Enchanter, it's a Enchantress Boggles type deck that was developed by Alcathos.
I know that one that draws cards whenever you cast an enchantment, right?
Yeah, like so stupid cool. Card advantage. Yeah. And then Sidrax's Spectre is a Grixis mid-range control deck created by Puzzlebox. So all of these do very different things, and they present interesting challenges as an opposing pilot when you're playing against them. So just like cEDH, you have to kind of know what's at the table and what their decks do, so you know when you're in danger and know when you need to like really hold up for your interaction for combo turns or Witherbloom. Like there's a point in time where Witherbloom starts building up the stack, either somebody else's an opposing stack or themselves by building it up themselves, and they'll do a Weather the Storm for like 8. So all of those copies triggering, and they'll gain this huge amount of life and drain you for 8. So like everybody at the table for 8. So
which is relevant when you only start with 30 life, right?
Absolutely.
So you need to have a lot of metagame knowledge in order to be an efficient cPDH player, you're saying?
No different than cEDH.
Makes sense.
No different than cEDH. Yeah, when you sit at a cEDH table, there's an expectation that you are coming there to win, and part of that expectation, they expect you to know what you're playing against.
Totally.
So if you see Black X deck, that's an ad nos deck. If you see Red Black, that's Underworld Breach. You know, if you so you have to know.
You totally have to know. Like, that's one of the most important aspects of competitive gameplay. Like, even if you're not playing EDH, if you play Pauper, if you play Legacy Standard, you have to know your meta in order to adapt and work with that. You can't just play it in a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Know your enemy. So as far as like content, there's been a burgeoning of PDH content over the last like year or so. Only a certain number of those content creators are actually doing cPDH on top of that, but I would argue that all of it at this point is relevant, because you'll see regular powered PDH decks get elevated. Sir Conrad is one of my brews here recently that was cPDH meme at one point in time. It's actually pretty serious, and people aren't memeing on it anymore. So
so you made it happen.
But I made it happen, right? So you have the Homebase. Homebase is the PDH Homebase is the central Discord server for all of PDH, both casual to competitive. We don't separate casual and competitive like a regular EDH does. You know, that fight that's been going on for years. We actually treat everybody. We're all inclusive. We treat everybody the same, and we recognize there's two ends of the format.
I love to hear that.
And we just govern from that perspective. So Homebase is like the central location for every kind of gameplay or advice or what have you. There's also an associated subreddit, Pauper EDH. There's a pdhhomebase.com website that has all the rules, and we publish articles and stuff like that there. Branching out from there, there's myself, Tryhards et al. We don't do any written articles or anything like that, but we do gameplay videos. Going over to Timmy and his budget brews, we were fortunate enough to link up with him to host our cPDH decklist database. So I'll give you the link to that. That has it's a non-tiered approach to the meta. So basically just saying, hey, here's some stuff, take this, make better, or play it as is. You know, do your thing, just like with the regular cEDH database. Nice. There's the Hex Drinkers, who are doing a mixture of Commander, so EDH, cPDH, cEDH content. There's the Dark Confidants, who are doing strictly PDH stuff, but are also venturing into the cPDH stuff. And then I think I've covered all my bases. Oh, and there's a competitive Pauper Commander subreddit that has been active for the last like little bit. We've been slowly building it up. So yeah, right now that's basically the nexus of all of. But
that's a lot. Like, a lot of cEDH players don't even know that the format of cPDH exists, and you guys already have so much going on for you. Like a lot of stuff on Discord, Reddit, YouTube, and I think that needs a lot more exposure. Like, you're doing you're doing so much work, so much great work for that format.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Clay, I have to thank you. I have to thank you for being part of this podcast-like video. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be a part of this. I will link all the Reddits, the subreddits, the Discord, the YouTube channels in the description box down below for you guys to like kind of venture into this format. I'll also link the deck lists, and yeah, I will definitely try out this variation of EDH. I will build the 4 Pauper EDH decks for my MTG school club, and I will use your input for that. And then I might even do a competitive Pauper EDH gameplay video. And I hope to have you on that.
Absolutely, anytime.
Great, and thank you guys. With that, I'm out. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you liked the video, please like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. And this is Eisenherz. That's Clay. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiedersehen.
Ciao.